Hi there, this is Fixed It. This is a friend's Wii U. It took some damage around about Christmas time. If I switch on the screen, you can see that it's in a terrible mess. So I bought a replacement LCD and I've got a replacement touchscreen, and I'm going to set about replacing it. And this is how you do it. First thing we need to do is to turn it off and then disconnect the power, and then we need to turn it over. What we have here is a series of specialist screws. The two here on the battery compartment are standard, very small crosshead. The ones here are actually a specialist 3-star, so you will need a specialist screwdriver. I'll put a link in the description where to get it from. For this I'm going to be using my Wow Stick screwdriver. It's an electric screwdriver, but it's high speed. And you can get the Wow Stick tips to fit it. So we'll start by removing these two screws to the compartment. And now lift that compartment up and try and keep the screws with the compartment so you don't lose it, and put it to one side. Inside we have the 3.7 volt lithium battery, which is 1500 milliamp hours. And I'm just going to pull out the battery connector and lift out the battery and put that carefully to one side. Now what we need to do is to undo all of the screws in this. The next thing I need to do is to remove these tabs. In fact, 2 have been removed, and these 4 at the back, there's 10 in all, and they need to be lifted because underneath them there are screws, and I've just got a blunt knife for doing this, so I can just slide it into the hole and lift the tab out. In fact, somebody has already had this open. They're very thin tabs, so you just have to be gentle with them. You don't want to break them, you just want to lift them. That's all 8. I'm going to attach them to this plate so that they're safe. So there they are. I've now got the screws and the tabs in one place. Now I need to change the tip and swap it for the 3-point head. And now I'm going to remove these 10 screws. Okay, there's one. That one's too long. I'll have to go and get another screwdriver in a second. Okay, so you need a long screwdriver. Having used this longer 3-point screwdriver, I'm now going to remove each of the screws and put them somewhere safe. Try and keep them all together. So there'll be 10 screws in all, even though in this case there are only 8 covers. You always get 1 or 2 that don't want to play. Okay, that's all the 10 screws removed. Now you might be tempted just to pull this apart, but don't, because inside there is a wire which is connecting the thing together. So what you need to do is, I generally use my thumbnail to kind of break the seal around the outside, and then if we look inside you'll see that there's that little connector in there. Okay, and what you need to do is to just go around and pull that off. So let me just spin this round. Put the 2 triggers to one side, and now just go in and pull that little clip off its base. Usually you just need to push it to one side, and there we go. Okay, so that's the back. Put that safely to one side, and here's the motherboard, graphics and communications modules on there, and a power adapter. So what we're going to do now is to take away some of these parts so that we can actually get at the screen. And I'll just remove the rest of these switches. They literally just pull off and put them in a safe place. There we go. The next thing we're going to do is to remove the motherboard, this board here, and it's got a series of cables attached to it, ribbon cables, that need to be removed in order to do that. And in my view it's always best to try and remove them first. You're going to have to be really careful with these cables though, because they're very easily damaged, and if they're damaged your machine won't work anymore, so it's a risky business. So the main cable here you'll see that there's a grey bar along the back. What you need to do is to flick that grey bar up and then gently go underneath the cable and rotate the cable out. Don't force it, don't kink it. And then this cable over here, it'll be the same. Again, flick up, gently pull out. This cable at the side, flick up. Just make sure that's definitely out. And then just pull that one out. There's a very, very tiny one there, which is a bit difficult to get at. I just flicked up with my nail to get at. Rotate this round. And these need to be pulled off. And the best thing to do with these is just to get your nail on either side and push. So that comes off there. And there's another flip up cable here. So gently flip that up. I'm using a pair of tweezers that's flat on top and quite blunt. Let's try and get that out of there. Okay, and then get this cable out. This one looks like it might be a bit more tricky. Oh no, just my thumb on top. And that one's out. There's another one over here. Again, fingers either side. Just a bit of a wiggle. That's not good for my nail. If you find one that won't move, then you can just use something just to press on the sides, just to try and lift it away, but be gentle with it. There you go. Okay. So that one's out of the way, and then there's another one on this side, which I put my thumb on the other side. So I've done the same there. This one here, actually, which I almost missed, which is the main one. And that now I think is, oh, there's another tiny, tiny little one. Here's another tiny little one. So I'm just going to flick that up and then get under there, pull that cable out. And there we have it. And now what we need to do, now they're all disconnected, is undo these phillips screws so that we can take off the motherboard. Now we just need to undo these screws. If you're using an electronic screwdriver, it's always best to manually start it off before you press the trigger, because otherwise what happens quite often is it will spin off, and you don't want it spinning off and damaging any of the components. There's another one over here. Make sure you pick up all of the screws. Now I'm just going to pull these cables out of the way. These are attached down here. So if you look inside there, you'll see there is another micro connector. There we go. Well, that's going to be a bit tricky to get back in. As you can see, if we hadn't removed that, we'd have destroyed the connection, which wouldn't have done it any good at all. That one could have been easily missed. There are two cables here. When you lift the board out, you'll find that it's attached to those cables. So let me spin this around and have another look at this side. So here's the volume slider, and that's attached to one of them. So if I just lift that cable up, we can follow this one. There it is there, and that goes down there and underneath. You can see it's down and underneath, and it actually then goes down to the printed circuit board, which is part of the volume control. So lift off the volume control slider itself, and then we need to just lift out this volume control itself from its slot. Let me just get that cable underneath there. Okay, and then just praise this off. Okay. So lift that off there, and then the black cable, if we look on the other side, the black cable runs underneath, which goes over to this other side, and we're going to lift that out for the other control on the opposite side. And now we should have everything disconnected. So what we want to do is to put the motherboard gently to one side where it's safe. Now what we want to do is to actually get at the screen and the mechanism, and to do that we're going to need to take these 4 screws out. Okay, so that's the 4 screws out, and now we should just be able to pop this plastic cover up. Pay attention to where everything is, i.e. these cables go through the middle of there, these are on the outside edge, these are on the outside edge, everything else is on the outside edge. It's important because if you tried to pull that back the other way you'd snap it. Okay, so let's take out that plastic cover. Make sure it's not hanging onto these plastic edges. Okay. And now underneath here we have the broken screen, and I should now just be able to lift that straight up and out. And there it is. The touchscreen itself might still be working, but I really can't tell, so I'm going to actually replace the touchscreen and the LCD.